Alrighty, what's up guys? Single player Nacho here. Twisted unnatural bones, blood-starved, and unhinged. It's the MOROAICA failed vampire experiments from Resident Evil Village. Visually disturbing and gruesome, these enemy types have very visible bruises all over their faces. I think it's due to the unnatural stretching of their bones. These things were tortured in the Dimitrescu dungeons. But more disturbing than their appearance is, how the hell do you pronounce their name, MOROAICA? I'm definitely butchering it.
MOROAICA.
And if you look deep into their eyes, you may fall in love. No, there's a darkened blue substance that tells a deeply disturbing story about how the MOROAICA were created. No, these were not born this way. The breadcrumbs lead us to a very tall and thick woman known as Lady Dimitrescu. This fancy serial killer maniac provided brutal experiments to the victims that became MOROAICA. Those victims were all exclusively women that worked at the castle in or around the village as maidens. They all cherished the fact that they were anywhere near Lady Dimitrescu, the absolute royalty in the village. Turns out their so-called hero, ALCINA, wanted all of the blood in their bodies. And that big woman leads us to a very big question. Why did she exclusively want women for her blood trials? If you look around the castle, there's a very maternal aspect to the artwork laid around. For example, this door. It's a gorgeous piece. Not so gorgeous for what was happening underneath it, of course. And ALCINA just seems to have this distrust around men. She calls them man things. Something that seems to stem from Mother Miranda, who literally has mother in her name. So ALCINA wanted daughters. She wanted to become a guardian who had personal and unconditional love to 3 daughters. But oh no, you do not just simply join the Dimitrescu bloodline. There needs to be a very royal criteria for approval. It seems that the maidens that were working in the castle were kept on a very close eye, and ALCINA's brutal fist of destruction. These poor maidens were beaten, abused for the simplest mistakes they made. You can just feel the fear behind their voice when you look at the Maiden Diary or the other notes laid around the castle. The anxiety and the trauma is very apparent. And this was all to thin down the list of who can join. If you take a look at Lady Dimitrescu's diary, there's a word that she uses to describe her daughters, and that word is obedient. So prisoners, maidens, unwanted guests that just so happen to be women were taken to the dungeons to be experimented on. Those who did not pass experimentation, well, you're looking at them, hanging, decaying corpses, dripping with blood. Oof, that's gotta stink. I have to question why ALCINA even leaves these body bags hanging in the first place. Is it for the ambiance? Is it an artistic expression? I don't know, but we have to take a look at this experiment note to find out the truth. Here you'll see 4 candidates, but under the rejects column, there's 12 failures who did not pass ALCINA's trials. Look at that ratio. There is a 30% chance to survive ALCINA's blood experiments. So according to the notes, 4 candidates did: Irina, Michaela, Lois, and Ingrid. Now, Ingrid is a very interesting name because we can link this name to one of the MOROAICA in ALCINA's prison. Strangely enough, Ingrid is found in a locked cell. Ingrid probably looks nothing like her past self, outfitted with a dirtied brown robe. And that's it. Ingrid is skin and bones now. She's also very vile and comes at you with a sword. Upon defeating Ingrid, she drops her necklace. And that is the link between the note and the one test subject that we can find down here. We can also link Ingrid as being the protagonist of the Maiden demo before Resident Evil Village was released. So the person you're playing as in that demo, we can see a live view of what it was like for every single one of those women that were essentially killed by ALCINA Dimitrescu. Their life was a life of escape, trying to survive and look for a way out ASAP. So Ingrid was one of the successful treatment candidates. The other 3, I would imagine, became the Dimitrescu daughters. Lois, Mihaela, and Irina were implanted with flies and Cadu, and they became these insect-bearing, maniacal serial killers. And they swiftly avoided the life of the MOROAICA. All they do is dwell underneath the castle, and that's it. I think they're pretty much passed out of not having any blood in their system, and they're just waiting for a nice little piece of Ethan Winters to get them by. Yummy. And take a listen to what one of these vampiric princesses say.
Squeeze the blood out when they're alive, and it's that much sweeter.
That perfectly encapsulates what happens to the MOROAICA. Their blood is drained to the most base form, so that it's the sweetest for the Dimitrescu family to feast upon. There are dozens upon dozens of blood barrels, we'll call them Moro barrels, inside the castle. This is the very sick and twisted process upon which MOROAICAs are created. Left to starve, their fluids, I hate saying that word, drained completely. Where that blood becomes nourishment for Dimitrescu's, or it's going into the sanguis virginis, or as I like to call it, Sanguis Virginis, the famous wine company developed by ALCINA herself. But Mrs. Thicky is not only a wine connoisseur, she also has her ties in poetic expressions. For example, the puzzle that leads to the Blood Distillery. Women are blind to male advances, but the poor shall take their chances to give their lord their bounty sown, so that soon the wine may flow. This typically complicated, over-the-top Resident Evil puzzle leads to a ghastly sight, the Dimitrescu Distillery. Anyone that walks in there without a hazmat suit is probably gonna die within minutes. Blood reaches up to your kneecaps. The blood itself glows in a strange ambient lighting. And all this blood is literally maiden blood, MOROAICA blood. And even weirder than all that, there are some MOROAICA in the distillery. But why? The only possible theory I can think of is that ALCINA keeps MOROAICAs as guards to protect her precious, delicious blood. So Lady D sees use in failed experiments, and I have reason to believe she still sees them as daughters even though they are putrid and completely diminished of any human emotion, because there's gotta be a reason why there's a very quick shortcut from ALCINA's personal private quarters to that distillery. Outside of the fact that she probably gorges on that blood all the time, maybe she still feels motherly towards these Moros. I mean, there's even MOROAICAs in the secret treasure room attached to the castle, so I can definitely see them being guards in that respect. Or maybe ALCINA does see them as failed experiments, and that's why they're buried in the courtyard in no remembrance. There's no graves, nothing special, just a bunch of random graves for the failed MOROAICAs. I'm not sure, but there is definitely some kind of connection and emotion that Lady D feels towards the Moros. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's still completely and utterly insane. She's the one that led to the downfall of these poor maidens in the first place. But I can still see ALCINA caring, in the slightest degree, not in any utmost importance, towards the MOROAICA. They're still probably peasants in her mind. Or is there a memory of the former lives led by the MOROAICA, the villagers they once were? The story of Ingrid is a perfect example of what these women experienced. But as you trudge through the village, there are pretty big reminders that this is a patriarchal area. This region upholds traditional family values and lifestyle. A perfect example being Elena, one of the first NPCs you meet in Resident Evil Village. Her demeanor, the way she's extremely caring about complete strangers and everyone around her, pretty much shows off what the MOROAICAs were like as villagers before they became monsters, blood slaves to ALCINA Dimitrescu. It's a very dark and grim reality in Resident Evil Village, when brain-dead monsters still hold some semblance of the life they used to live. Well, thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. What did you guys think of the MOROAICA the first time you encountered them? Would you marry one? Comment down below your thoughts and suggestions for other lore videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more horror lists, lore, and mysteries. I appreciate all the support, guys. Have an awesome rest of your day, and as always, stay single.